so much to you and me. Let's talk. Talk about the things that mean so much to you and me. Let's talk.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting program of Let's Talk. As you can see, I'm Henry Benefield, and I'm glad to be able to come into your homes today to talk about some interesting topics. Of course, we always have interesting topics on Let's Talk. Again, I want to thank all of you for your Facebook greetings and compliments to the show. We work very hard to try to bring quality production to you. Thank you for your support down through the years. We've been here quite a while, and due to your support and your encouragement, we expect to be here a lot longer. Well, let's get into today's program. We have several guests today, but my very first guest, you recognize him from the media, from being on the city council, and so many different positions in Cincinnati. I want to welcome my very first guest, Senator Cecil Thomas, as my very first guest. He came all the way from Columbus today just to be able to sit down, have a conversation with me on basically where we are in Cincinnati in the 9th District, just to be able to talk and go over some things that you guys may want to have concerns about. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, please welcome my guest, Senator Cecil Thomas. Welcome to the program, Senator.
Well, thank you, Henry, for having me. I'm glad to come in and see if I can impart some wisdom.
Absolutely.
That will encourage our city and our county and our region to continue to move forward.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I'm excited about having you on the program, I've been seeing you be very busy for our district as far as being a senator. Sure. And I know a lot of people, they elect folks, but they never really hear about some of the things that they do, unless it's, by the grapevine or whatever. I was very impressed when you were in Columbus talking about the raising of the minimum age. Let's talk about that, some of the advantages or some of the disadvantages that occur when people don't have sufficient income, when everything else, I heard you speak, that all of the rent's going up, the utilities are going up, but the wages are not. Right. So I'm going to open the door and just let you kind of speak on that. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, you said raise the minimum age. You meant minimum wage.
Wage. Oh, did I say? You're trying to sound intellectual there, Cincinnati, right. Since I have the senator here, minimum wage.
We're all human now. I think it's critically important that we recognize that folks have to have a livable wage, and the economy continues to go up in terms of the cost of living increases and things of that nature. We had a major issue with the economy when folks lost their jobs and lost their homes during the recession. Well, the recession is now recovering, but wages aren't recovering in the same fashion. And what we have is a lot of folks having to work 2, maybe 3 jobs just to make ends meet.
Exactly.
And then others who do have a job, they still have to rely on public services to make ends meet. Wow. No one should have to work 8 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week, and still have to ask for public assistance. That makes no sense. Wow. So I, along with some of my cohorts, introduced a legislation to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. That is obviously a start. We would like to see it continue to go up, but raising it to $15 an hour gives people a little bit more money in their pocket to spend on basic needs. It's meeting a tremendous amount of pushback.
Certainly.
And see, the way it works in the Senate is that the president of the Senate appoints the chairman of the committees. The chairman of the committee then determines what gets hearings and what does not get hearings. If it's one party that is opposed to the raising the minimum wage, it'll be difficult for the other side to get hearings necessary to discuss the matter and try to push it through the legislative process. we're waiting to see if we get hearings on it. There are a number of other bills that we've introduced. I always say we because I always ask for co-sponsors once I come up with some idea that I think might be of benefit to the entire state. And it's vice versa. The other legislators in the Democratic caucus, we all put out co-sponsorship requests. And sometimes the Republicans do the same thing. It depends on what the bill is and what kind of impact it may have. Will determine whether I will say, yeah, I'll be more than glad to help co-sponsor this.
Certainly. When was the last time there was an increase in the minimum wage?
Wow. We're going back quite a few years. The current minimum wage, See, it was before. Yeah, it's been early 2000, even sooner, later than that, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, in the
But
90s.
yet, prices are escalating everywhere.
Price of bread and milk and all those things continue to go up.
Wow.
And so, I mean, just think about how long have we been at I think it was 8 something an hour is the minimum wage, and even the city raised the minimum wage for anybody working full time in the city service. They raised it to $10 an hour.
Wow. Wow.
So I mean but still, that's not nowhere near
what is really needed to survive.
No, of course not.
Yeah. When you start getting into the cost, I'm noticing that just housing, the cost of housing, has skyrocketed. I live in Over the Rhine, and I was extremely surprised to hear within the residence where I live that they were renting an apartment for $1,400 a month.
Yep, absolutely.
$1,400? Well, we're going to change it to $2,000 a month. I guess because I'm a little bit older, I recognize that's a house note.
Yeah, absolutely.
But am I not entitled to live in a decent place? I go to work every day. I'm a respectful citizen. I don't have a criminal record. Good neighbor. Am I not entitled to have a good living situation based upon my efforts that I give with a job?
Sure.
But to be able to only get $10 an hour, that wouldn't even dent coming up with a rent that is $900, $800.
Well, see, there's I don't know how young mothers will say maybe 2 children or 3 children or whatever the number may be during the recession. I don't know how they made it.
Sure.
I mean, because the heating bills and the utility bills and all of the costs.
Sure.
We all felt the pain
Certainly.
during the recession.
Sure.
Now, if we whom have a halfway decent income feel the pain of gas prices at
Certainly.
$2-3 a gallon, or higher, way up there, $3.50 a gallon, all these kinds of things.
Insurance.
Yeah, insurance, you name it.
Wow.
Those things really, I don't know how those young mothers made it. But now, it was just announced, yesterday or today, in Columbus, the poverty rate is 1 in 4 children are in poverty in Columbus, Ohio. I believe it was 1 in 3 here. I know we were right in that same general vicinity of 1 in 3, 1 in 4, which basically says a quarter of the children living in your city are living in poverty.
Wow.
And there's a problem with that,
Wow.
And what do we do to
Especially with
correct that?
Cincinnati being as rich as it is.
Absolutely.
I was amazed to find out all of the Fortune 500 companies that exist in Cincinnati alone, and opportunity for people to at least have a decent, fair wage is surprising. You would think it would be a lot better. I know that in cities like Seattle and what is it, where Google is, and all those wonderful places, Silicon Valley, certainly the residents there have incomes that's comparable to all of the businesses that are there. With all of these Fortune 500 companies in Cincinnati, it's very surprising to see that the wages are very low.
Well, and the other side of all of that is that we got a major affordable housing shortage in Hamilton County, in the city of Cincinnati as well, meaning that someone who wanted to find decent housing for a reasonable cost, maybe you make just a little bit more money than to require than to live in public housing, subsidized housing. But you don't make enough money to find decent housing.
Wow.
So you kind of caught in the middle of all of that, and we do have a serious shortage of affordable housing in the city of Cincinnati.
Wow.
And see, what we're seeing is there's a huge drive to move back into the city. There was a time everybody fled to the suburbs.
Certainly.
Now, because of the cost of living and the cost of driving a vehicle, all of that stuff to get around, all of that cost is so high. People are now want to be in a community where they can it's called walkability in these communities. And you're seeing a lot of influx back into the city, and people are willing to pay $1,400 a month to rent, because now they're not paying all those other costs.
Certainly.
When it comes to owning a home out in the suburb and the upkeep and then the gas prices and traveling. So you can afford $1,400 a month with no problem.
Wow.
But just the average person cannot.
Wow.
And so,
how amazing. Wow. So what is the status of that particular situation right now with the wage? Is it still pending?
It's bills, once they're introduced, they're assigned to a committee, and then it's up to, like I said, that it's up to that committee chair to put it on the agenda. So that's sitting right now. And see, what we because we're in the minority in the House and the Senate. There are 33 senators in the Senate. Only 9 are a Democrat. There are 99 House members, and only 33 are Democrat.
Wow.
In other words, and in all committees, there's usually 3 Democrats and 9, maybe 8, 9 Republicans on a committee. So even if I get something introduced where I can get the hearings, I need at least 3 hearings before I can move it to the full vote of the full Senate.
Sure.
Even if I get something, get the hearing, the first hearing, I got to get it voted out of committee. More than likely, if it's a bill that the other side opposes, the likelihood of it getting voted out of committee so that we can put it before the full Senate is highly unlikely.
Sure.
Let alone I beg to try to get a hearing. 2, 3. You got to have at least 3, I said. Sure. If you can't get that, then the bill sits. Now, what we do, though, and what I do is I turn to the public, and I let the public know to put pressure to let folks know that this bill is there. Can you call the senators? Can you blow up their phones, blow up the email, send chain letters, all these kinds of things.
Certainly. Make them aware.
And it moves them, because one thing you'll find out is that just because a senator came from a district that's predominantly of his party, that does not mean that all the people in that party think the way he thinks.
Certainly.
For instance, a good example is the gun issue. We've been talking about common sense gun legislation. Well, state of Ohio, 86% of the people that live in the state of Ohio, based on a polling, support common sense gun legislation. They want to see universal background checks. And these are strong areas of the state that are highly conservative.
Certainly.
Parts of the state. So if your senator is saying, well, I'm going to keep voting the way I've been voting on this because I don't want to upset the NRA and I don't get my campaign finances in my campaign, and so I'm going to vote to not support common sense gun regulations. But the community that he came from is, they don't know that he's not voting in that way. They don't know that. And as a result, when we start putting pressure publicly using the media to talk about, well, Senator so-and-so from XYZ county, even though his county shows that the people support common sense gun regulations, well, he's voting against it.
Wow.
So then you put the pressure on that way.
Wow. And you brought up a point, I think, which should be brought out, because the NRA supports a lot of politicians financially. They don't go against them because of that financial support. To counteract that, do you think that more support from communities, individual people, is needed to offset that, because I remember when former President Barack Obama was running for president of the United States, he indicated it doesn't make any difference if it's $5. It doesn't make it. And I'm not saying give $5. Certainly takes a lot more than that. But $5, $50, $100, whatever contribution you can give to support this particular president or this particular gentleman running for the president of the United States, it would be an asset. It's like the power of the community. Should we not stress that when you approve of a candidate, it's important for you to also financially support them, no matter how minute you think your contribution
Oh, absolutely.
is.
Oh, absolutely. You know, in order to put on a very good campaign, you need resources. You know, and in order to do that, in order to send out the mailings and to communicate your message and things of that nature, you know, resources in the form of campaign contributions help tremendously. You know, what's most important though is that when you are running for office, and by the way, I'm running for office. Re-election. I got a primary candidate, but I don't have a general election candidate. So I had to win my primary May 8th, and then I'm fine to help other candidates. But most important, though, more so than the money, is the mere fact that you have to be yourself and you have to connect with people. You have to have a servant heart, if you will, and recognize that whatever decisions I make up at the state, it has an impact on everybody.
Certainly.
You know, because whatever I do becomes a law, and everybody's susceptible to that. So I have to be very careful, and I have to really do the kind of homework to make sure I understand the impact of what I'm voting on and how it will impact people. And oftentimes, sometimes I may have something that sounds like a good idea, but then after I realize the impact it may have in somebody in the rural area of our state, I'm saying, well, no, maybe we need to look at this in a different way. And so that's what makes really good candidates.
You're aware that I'm with many organizations as leaders, as a leader, and I share with people a lot of times you really have to ponder over things very carefully, because once you make a decision, it's going to affect more than just you. It's going to affect all of the people that are in that organization.
Absolutely.
And so I call that wisdom, to be able to understand that I don't just speak just to be speaking, but I have to ponder just for a moment. And that's what I love about former President Obama. He never ever just blurted out anything. He would always think about what he was going to say, you know, because in that position comes great power. That's why I was saying great power, great responsibility. That was the word I was trying to say earlier in our discussion.
Right.
You mentioned something, Senator Thomas, and I kind of want to go back on it, because being in the community, working grassroots in the community, I'm sensing a lack of individualism when it comes to my own individual responsibility for some of the things, not everything, some of the things that's going on in the community. I recognize that when it comes to children, I remember coming up, I know you're from Alabama. Coming up in Alabama, when we were raised, it was more than just my mother. It was more than just, it was my aunt or grandmother. I mean, your cousins, you might be at your cousins or the lady downstairs. When I was coming, we didn't have, child care that everybody, and if you don't have child care, you're a bad mom. You know, well, they were so busy trying to get the rent paid and food on the table, they couldn't afford to pay child care.
Sure.
So Miss Peyton, which was on the second level, I think she's like 80 years old. She knew what time we were supposed to be. You go upstairs and you guys, she could hear us. If we tried to tip out, she'd know it. Or the lady, Miss Elizabeth, which was on the other floor, she had kids. She was a stay-at-home mom, and we could go to her house and play with our friends downstairs. But there never was just a single parent that was responsible for the upbringing of all the kids in the community. But there was a sense of responsibility that I recognized from all of those people that helped to raise us that I feel is lacking today. It's becoming more selfish, you know, it's just me, my kids, and blah, blah, blah. And of course, if there's a major event and it happened to me and my family, now I want to do a big GoFundMe page, and now I've got to do all this other kind of stuff. I think maybe I might be wrong, but the interaction of individuals in the community and a concern for us as people and the community if the attention is there, I do believe it has the power to divert some of the negatives that could come out when there isn't someone there that could basically, a young man about to go down the wrong track. You know, I'm sure you could probably test as well. Someone says, well, what do you want to be? I'm like, what do you want to be? There was this one guy that was Mr. Wade, who was the Boy Scout. He always said, son, what do you want to be? I said, I don't know. He said, think about it, let me know. He come back next week. What do you want to be? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Well, what do you want to be? That made me start to seriously be concerned about my future.
Sure, absolutely.
But if I don't have an idea that I have a future, then I'm satisfied with the present. You know, so I didn't mean to talk that much.
No. What you just described in your presentation was clearly it takes a village to raise a child. You know, my village was rural Alabama. You know, it wasn't in the city of Birmingham. It was in an area where we had chickens and outhouse, and we grew our own food. My playground was the forest, and you know, and I didn't have to worry about glass and concrete and all that stuff. All I had was dusty dirt roads, and grass.
But it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you could be in the castle and all that kind of Tarzan in the jungle.
and my father was the provider. He would go out and hunt and come back with rabbits and quail and stuff like that. My mom was the nurturer in the home. My grandma was overseer of everybody and make sure when we were supposed to be in, and you know, all this kind of stuff. In other words, we were poor, but I never knew it. Never knew it. You know, but when I came here, then I realized what poverty was all about. You know, started out with concrete and blacktop and all that kind of stuff. You know, and I always said, as I got into the area where I am today, I always said that the importance of our parks and how our parks are working with our kids today, getting the kids in the inner city to spend time in the parks.
Reason being, because I know why, but so people get your point.
Well, the main reason is that if you're not introduced to that kind of environment, then all you will have is every day the same kind of dealing with the sidewalks and the concrete and all of these things. But being in the parks, you know, you learn about nature. And you learn a lot of things that you normally would not get in the inner city. Because I had all of that in the South. And then the importance of the arts. I see now how the symphony is now bringing some of the young kids in and letting them have a sit down and listen to an orchestra. A symphony orchestra play. And all of that, when you introduce kids to something different than what they are accustomed to, it broadens their minds, and they're able to expand their thinking. So all of that's important. So at the state level, when I make decisions, I always keep in mind, well, how can this make someone's life better that's living and struggling? For instance, we have had a habit of sending very low-level kinds of offenders who may have committed a minor kind of offense that we send them to jail for 18 months and all this stuff. Well, the state finally got it and realized that the cost of housing somebody in our penitentiaries was just astronomical. And so we came up with the thought way of saying, let's figure out how to get a lot of those individuals who committed those minor kinds of offenses, but they end up in the penitentiary. I'm talking about non-violent, low-level kinds of stuff. You know, for instance, there was a mother that was supposedly had voted twice, and she was charged with voter fraud, and they gave her 5 years in jail. Now, think about that. This lady had, you know, she didn't intentionally do anything wrong. She made a mistake. And some folks wanted to make a point about voting, and we're going to send anybody to the penitentiary if you found to have committed voter fraud. So this lady was sent to jail for 5 years. Well, these are the kind of people that we're saying don't belong in our penitentiaries. And so those kinds of folks, number one, they never should have been sent to the penitentiary. But once they are Let's get them folks out of there. Let those folks stay in the community. So it's those kinds of legislative decisions that has to take place, and I'm in a position to make the argument and make the case. And the other side is concerned simply because the state cannot, the weight of the cost of housing individuals in our state prisons. We have a capacity of about 38 to 40,000. We're at 51,000 in our penitentiaries, and a lot of those individuals can be released back. So anyone that commits a fourth-degree felonies, it's going to be really hard to be sent to the penitentiary under those circumstances. House you locally.
You mentioned deterrent, and when you talked about parks, it kind of goes back to the root. Being a person that's very community-oriented, and I feel that people deal with the bad fruit that come out of people. But in my opinion, which is limited, I never find people wanting to deal with the root. Yeah. No good tree that has bad roots will ever produce good fruit. So when we go back to the ABCs, and that's one of the things, and I have to give you credit for, ever since you were a police officer, you have been the kind of person that deals one-on-one with people from the root. Heartfelt things, concerned about how to improve people's lives, even if it was at your own expense. You've always been involved people to people. I do understand that folks have position, but the bottom line, you know, if we all were on the moon, it wouldn't make any difference. Whether you were a senator or I was Henry, both of us need to survive on the moon.
That's right.
We're human beings. So,
absolutely.
Going back to, like I said, to my point, deterrence, the 100-plus African-American men's chorus, of which I am a chairman of, we have a desire to reach kids where they are right now, in neighborhoods where they're intelligent, but have potential, but don't have opportunity.
Right.
Giving them opportunity, because we know, as you said, once they've been exposed to more than just a 4, 5, 6 block radius, it's going to open up their whole imagination. So we do fundraisers every year to send deserving kids, where they're underprivileged because their family cannot afford to send them, but they are yet entitled to go on the black college bus tour because they have the grades. But it almost looks like they're going to be hopeless because the surrounding says you're not going to go to college. You don't even have a vision of going to college. You're going to end up being a part of the statistics of the neighborhood. So taking that, sending them on the tour, providing the funds for them to go on the tour, we are so honored to see that when they first get on the bus, they're strangers. When they return, they're the best of friends. When they go to colleges, because as men, our concern, and it's not prejudice, I want to be very clear, it's called preference. Charity begins at home. As black men, first, we can't go out and bless everybody else's kids without blessing our own first. We're concerned about our kids, and I know you're the senator of all of the state of Ohio. This is just one brother speaking about community concern. To be able to look at those kids and say, look at the potential of where you can be. And when they go out and see people that look like them that are professors, people that look like them that are scientists, people that look like them that are, doctorates, all kinds of degrees, it changes their concept because they've never been exposed to it.
Yeah, see, one of the things we've done, and it's our fault, is that we've allowed ourselves to become too dependent on other entities to determine our destiny. Well, what you just spoke to and the efforts of the 100 black men, what you're doing is you're creating the opportunities for these young folks so that they can dream and pursue their own destiny. When we become dependent, as I started this conversation, I talked about my father he would go out, he was a nurturer. The provider. And he created an environment for me and my siblings to dream, to be able to say we can be whatever we want to be. And that's the same what we have to do with our inner city youth. some who probably do not have a father figure, and mom is doing the best she can to try to help the kids, young men, grow up to be young men. And I say, and a lot of these mothers do an excellent job in doing that.
And fathers.
And then the fathers as well. And so what we have to do, though, is in spite of all of the external distractions, we still have to create that environment for these young men to say, whatever is going on over here, no, you stay focused here, you know. And that's when I said, when you introduce these kids to the symphony and the parks and all the other things that are out there, now they are saying, okay, I can I can play the violin.
Exactly.
You see,
and be quite successful.
Absolutely.
Because most people, by me being an international performer, I know that being a performer, I can make more in 1 month than people make in 1 year. The level of excellence must be high, because that's the level of professionalism.
Absolutely.
When I perform with all the different artists and stuff like that, those excuses, whatever things that people choose not to be on the top of their game, was not an option for me, because of what I was demanding and what was expected as a performer, a background voice for many people, and people you guys can read later, all the history. But I'm simply saying, it provided. We recently supported one of the local bands, the 100 Plus African American Men supported one of the local bands, Mr. McDaniels, with the black band. I apologize, because he actually trains people kids from over the Rhine and some of the hard hit areas to pick up an instrument, to perfect an instrument. We think about the jazz. We think about all of the R&B, the drummers and stuff, people that made a successful life. Because I remember a phrase that former President Obama says, everyone isn't meant to be a lawyer.
Right.
Everyone isn't meant to be a school teacher. But based upon my concept that God gave me, is that within every person there are gifts. And if we would focus on whatever those gifts are, when I'm saying something that they love to do, that's another Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, see,
that's another Bill Gates.
Absolutely, and I don't know if I've said this in any of your previous shows, but I always like to tell that story. There was an incident where a young man jumped on the bus right in the corner of on Reading Road. He jumped on the bus, fired a gun in the air, and said, "Who's from Barn Hill on this bus?" And nobody would say anything. So then he got off the bus and went on and disappeared. Well, I was the head of Human Relations Commission at the time, and I heard about it. I said, I see them kids up there standing on that corner all the time. I'm going to go up there and get in their heads, because I said, I don't want to see these kids. I want to see them become productive kids. So I go up there, and I got my little suit on. I walk up. I say, okay, guys, I ain't Popo.
Okay.
I used to be Popo.
Anymore.
So, and it was about 7 or 8 of them. And I said, I heard, somebody just fired a gun. And they wouldn't say anything in that. I said, look here, guys. I said, every one of y'all God gives all of us gifts and talents. And I said, every one of y'all probably got a gift or a talent. I said, I bet you all know somebody up here that's really got a talent. And they pointed to a little young man. He was about 15. He was sitting on a stump of a tree that had been cut down. And he said, they pointed over at him. So I go over to him. I say, hey, man, your boy said you got a talent. I said, do you have a talent? He said, yeah, I got a little something. I said, well, what is it? So he goes in his pocket and unfold like 4 sheets of paper. Each one of them was this young man could have been a graphic artist. He could have been anything he wanted to be. Wow. And that's just how good those drawings were that he had. And that's exactly what I said. I said, wow. And now this young man has dropped out of school, and see, the school somewhere missed the talent that he had. Now, if they had been able to recognize how talented he was as an artist, he could have his art hanging all over the school, which would have gave him motivation to stay in school, because everybody would be saying, this is he's the best artist in this, and we got the best artists in all the high schools right here. And in other words, instead of really hitting on him hard with all the other subjects. Once you hit him where he enjoys being praised and coming in and things,
Sure.
other stuff, he'll pick that up because he'll be encouraged to come to school based on the mere fact that he's being recognized for his gift and his talent.
Well, I'm about to go into a debate with you on that subject.
Okay.
You know, this will be the only time that I have a debate with Senator Cecil Thomas. But I see it in a different perspective.
Okay.
I think you said earlier, we're so dependent on others for our economic success and other areas that we need to be in to be successful. I remember being able to just sing and just kind of sing in the choir
Okay.
at church.
Okay.
And it was the people in the church. You need to perfect that. You got a great voice. So-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. And you need to do this and blah, blah, blah. And it was the community that recognized the talents. Just watched the film the other day. And I know it's just a film. Aquila and the Bee. And when the young lady lost her mentor, he decided to stop doing it. Her mother began to encourage her. Even the drug dealer told her brother, you don't need to run with me. You need to work with your sister. She needs to represent Compton. She needs to win this bee. All the people who knew who she was, what does this spell? What does this mean? Everywhere she went, there's a whole folk. And when she got in front of the people, she began to focus on her abilities and her gifts because she was so encouraged, and she heard her mother says, that gentleman might not be your mentor, but you've got so many other mentors. I read a story about Madam C.J. Walker, and this is just us, who was of America's first black female millionaire. I recognize she became a millionaire from the support of folks that brought her comb, her pressing comb, and all that kind of stuff, which were African-American people. So coming from us, supporting people within our community with gifts and talents should be a major focus. No. I agree with you 100%. See, one of the questions I always ask young men and young ladies, I say, what is it that you enjoy doing? Sure.
You know, what is it over everything else? If you had something that you could do that you really enjoy doing, what is it? And they all would have different responses. So once you recognize what they enjoy doing, then you can build on it from that standpoint. You know, you can build on it from that standpoint because now you know what motivates that young child. You know what motivates that young child, and then you can build everything else around it. All of those core requirements, subjects, and things of that nature, as long as that you focus where what motivates that child.
Exactly.
You see kids all the time.
Exactly. Well, it's getting that time. I hate to see you in this conversation. I always enjoy talking to you, but
this is good.
Have another guest on the show. Let me thank you so very, very much, Senator Thomas. We want to encourage you. First of all, everybody, you guys need to go out and vote.
Oh, May 8th.
Senator Thomas,
Absolutely.
May 8th. He's up for re-election. Not only Senator Thomas, but all the people that you agree with their program to represent you in all these different positions throughout the state of Ohio. Don't forget May the 8th. If you have not registered, you really need to register right away. And that's another thing. We need to be very important because compared to what our folks went through just to get us the right to vote, that's almost dissipating as well.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, I'm going to say we can talk about that.
Whole nother show.
Absolutely.
So I thank you again for coming on the show, Senator Thomas.
Thank you for having me.
We got 1,000 more things. We're going to book you back on the show to talk about more.
Absolutely.
So thank you, sir. And we know the best of luck to you on May the 8th. I look forward to calling you on May the 9th and saying, yay, we won again. You know?
You got it.
Thank you for working for us in District 9.
Absolutely.
All right,
thank you,
my brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That is Senator from the 9th District of Ohio, Senator Cecil Thomas, talking about a lot of subjects and a lot of topics that we've talked about here on this particular program. I do want to mention we have the 100 Plus African American Men's Course is going to be receiving an award for Ministers of the Year. Ministers of the Year is going to be given to us at the I Hear Music in the Air Legends Ball, which is going to take place May 20th at the Sharonville Convention Center. So you definitely want to be able to go online, find out when that event is going to take place. We're very, very honored to receive that. Previous winners has been gospel singers like Richard Smallwood. See, everybody, I'm having a moment where I'm trying to remember everybody that we're talking about. But that's going to take place May the 20th at the Sharonville Convention Center. The 100 Plus African American Men's Course is going to be receiving an award, Minister of the Year. You kind of heard me talking about it just a little bit. You have guys that are from all over the city of Cincinnati. Some are just regular guys. Some are just professionals, some are politicians, some are great musicians. It's a very diverse group of men who are concerned about the well-being of the young people in our community. So thank you to Miss Tracy Artis and all of the I Hear Music in the Air staff. We're very honored and privileged to receive that award. But again, if you would like to join us on that day, I think also Oscar Robertson's, the Big O, is going to be receiving an award as well on that day, and many, many others. I just wanted to speak on behalf of the 100 Plus African American Men's Course. Okay, we have our second guest back on the program, and let's move forward with that. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lovely lady on the program. She is running for state representative, yes. I think District 33?
Yes.
District 33, state of Ohio, and her name is Catherine Goodwin Williams?
Yes, just Kathy.
Kathy!
Yes.
Kathy Goodwin Williams. Okay. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
It is such a pleasure. I tell you, it is so exciting when we get to this time of the year to meet so many of the candidates that are running for office and stuff like that.
Yes.
Because you know what happens, a lot of times we don't get a chance to meet them personally.
Absolutely.
We'll see them on the little snippets and stuff like that. Tell us, who is Kathy?
Well, my name is Kathy Goodwin Williams. I am born and raised in the village of Lincoln Heights.
Oh, awesome.
Yes, and currently sit as a member of council in the village of Lincoln Heights, and I chair the Economic Development Committee there.
Okay.
Yes.
And married, children?
I am very single.
Okay, awesome.
So I have 2 young adult children.
Awesome.
Age 24 and 22.
Wow.
And I have a grandbaby who is 1.5 years, and he was born on my birthday, so he's the best gift you could ever have.
Wow, wow, wow.
Right.
So what made you want to run for state representative?
Well, it started probably 6 years ago.
Okay.
I think I've always known that politics was going to be my destiny.
Okay.
I kind of fought it along the way,
okay.
but my career and education have led me to this point.
Sure.
I started back in 1990 as a work detail supervisor with Hamilton County Juvenile Court.
Okay.
I'm a graduate of the University of Cincinnati. My undergraduate degree is in sociology, so I'm a sociologist.
Okay.
And I worked for Hamilton County Juvenile Court for about 4 years as a work detail supervisor and part-time as probation.
Now, what is a work detail supervisor? I know probation, but what is a work detail supervisor?
So I would supervise youth who were court-ordered to perform community service. And making sure that there were work sites for them. We would do everything from picking up trash on the side of the road
Sure.
To helping prepare the schools in the summertime for the upcoming school year. We would go to any public park or facility
Sure.
To help beautify those areas.
Sure. And I don't want to get off subject, but it's a great lead-in for a question. I was just speaking to my previous guest, and we were talking about the gifts that kids have. I found that a lot of people deal with bad fruits everyone's a tree and they have good roots, and
Yes.
what goes through the roots produces good fruit. In your experience of working as with the young people in the juvenile, do you also find that some of these kids are very talented, and if they had an opportunity to focus on the stuff that's in them, they would never be a part of that system?
Absolutely.
Wow.
And that's a great lead into my current position. I am a student success coordinator with Life Skills High School. So I work with a population of students who don't necessarily function well in a traditional high school setting. So those students are anywhere from age 16 to 22 years of age. And so we accept the students who a lot of high schools, public high schools, kick out, or students drop out and then realize that they need to come back and finish their education. So what my role is at the school is I provide them an opportunity not only to earn a state-recognized high school diploma, but also to participate in a program that would provide them a certification in phlebotomy, as an EKG technician, home health aide. Also, we have a program that we partner with Easter Seals and their Youth Build program, which is a pre-construction, pre-apprenticeship program. And we also have an entry-level cosmetology program.
Wow.
So students who otherwise, would be out on the street, running around, doing things that were incorrigible or against the law,
have no focus in their life.
Yes.
Sure.
And so even though I have one title, I do many jobs there. I am the equivalent of the school social worker, school guidance counselor, mom, auntie, friend, disciplinarian. So we do some pretty great things there.
Wow, how awesome. Trying to really make an impact on children, it appears that you really have to be focused on almost each child individually.
Absolutely.
I'm finding that no child is alike, regardless of what they say. And I guess that's one of them where I could go on the discipline and all that other kind of stuff, because one discipline may work for one child and another discipline for another, but no child is the same.
No.
So to have this basic, skeleton format of, Reggie, this is for all the children, it doesn't work.
No, it does not.
So you have, again, what I was telling about, talking to our former guest, I'm concerned about how these are dressing with I'm shocked at all the young people causing these horrendous acts, and they want to lock down the school. And I was taught what you lock out, you also lock in. So basically you're creating a prison. And so no one says that to make it safer for the kids, and I think it should be safe. I'm not trying to make a determination, but just an observation that what about getting to the root? There's something going on with so many doing the same thing, but what's at the root of it?
I'm going to tell you that the students that I work with, and not just my students, this goes on in all of the schools, neighborhoods, communities. Kids are dealing with some things that are really unspeakable. You're talking about everything from sexual abuse at home, runaway, just students doing what they have to do to provide for themselves because their parents are nowhere to be found, or they're out doing their thing. Students who are having to be parents to their younger siblings, are either caregivers for their great-grandparents, or having to provide or pick up the slack.
Sure.
So they're out doing, selling drugs or
just things
prostitution.
To survive.
Yes.
Sure, yeah. And again, as I talked to my previous guest, the lack, please excuse me, the lack of economic opportunity can lure young people, older people as well, into those positions. Now they're part of the criminal network. And when I mentioned about Madam C.J. Walker, the empowerment, the support that she got from the community allowed her to hire other people that look like her in her business, whether it's distribution, whether it's selling, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's marketing or whatever, whether it's accounting.
Yes.
It empowered her, but the bottom line, where it came from, was from people that look like her.
That's right.
Which is the economic empowerment of my previous guest. in just a soft and respectful comment, I think we depend upon other sources to provide our livelihood versus understanding what we have available within ourselves.
That's right.
Within our own communities.
Right.
He mentioned that a young man that had incredible skills in art, 3 pieces of paper. Well, that's a Leonardo da Vinci.
Yes.
That's a Picasso. But how did Picasso become successful? And I don't know what happened to the person, but that one did not. And it's based upon people.
I agree.
People. The bottom line, it is always people. I sound like a preacher.
No, you're right. You're right.
It's always people. But let's get back to you. I know you're running for a state representative. What are some of the things you see that you would like to bring to? I'm sure you can't do a full agenda because every day something comes up.
Yes.
But I know there are at least some heart desires. And also mentioning that you will be taking the position of State Representative Alicia Reese.
Yes.
As well. And I understand she's retiring?
Yes, she has term limited and she's moving on.
Term limited, okay,
Yes.
okay. And so you'll be filling that position of state representative of
Yes.
33rd District of Ohio, Alicia Reese. So let's talk about some of the things you'd like to do.
Okay, and so I'll just continue with the education piece. So the state of Ohio has enacted what are some additional educational opportunities for students, educational pathways for students who are having difficulty passing the OGT test and of course exams. So they've given some opportunity. Right now it's in the test stage for the graduating class of 2018. So I'd like to see more schools take advantage of and provide those opportunities for the population of students that I just talked about, as well as the career pathways. So that is one of my goals, is to have Ohio be the model for career and educational pathways. The second part of my platform has to do with economic development. So I am currently a member of council in the village of Lincoln Heights, and I chair the Economic Development Committee. And so I've spent the last almost two and a half years, I was elected in 2016. So I've been charged with redeveloping a community that has been downtrodden for probably 20 plus years. So we've spent the last 2.5 years redeveloping, rebuilding relationships with previous partners, everybody from county government to businesses who have in the past supported. So in my research and trying to rebuild the community, I found that the village of Lincoln Heights is not the only community who has suffered in terms of economic development. So when you start looking at communities such as Elmwood, Carthage, they too need that shot in the arm of economic growth. So it is my goal to have, once I get to the State House, is to make sure that other smaller communities have an opportunity to take advantage.
Recognized to have advantages. And the economic thing is so widely distributed. You could talk about 1,000 different communities. The bottom line is that, as I said earlier, it's about people. I'm finding if people have an opportunity, they can actually pull themselves up.
Yes.
But the lack of opportunity, we are dealing with so many established organizations that don't want to give people opportunity.
Yes.
To be able to do whatever as far as their own what's the word I want to say, as far as their own successes and failures, because they operate out of fear. Well, this person or this group of people did this and it failed, and blah 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 blah. But yet we must not lose the ability. I'm so reminded of some of the richest people in the world, the Gates and the Mark Zuckerbergs, and how they had something within them, and the power. They've actually changed the world. Yes. They have changed the world with the gifts and the talents of what they've had. And I believe within the communities of the state of Ohio are world changers. But will we give them the opportunity? And what are the foundations or the formats that we have to provide opportunity? Yes. And that's what you're saying you'd like to provide opportunities for folks to be able to grow on.
That's right. That's right.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, ma'am.
No, yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. So I'm excited about what is to come in terms of the economic growth. And then just to kind of get in there too, I have a third part of my platform, and that is healthcare. And to continue what President Obama started in terms of providing health care that is affordable and adequate for all. So I'm a licensed health insurance agent, have been since 2006. And so the bulk of my experience has been working with seniors who are Medicaid and Medicare eligible. And so sitting at the kitchen table across from my clients like we're doing here, I have found it disheartening, some of the decisions that have had to be made. Do I buy my medication? Or do I eat this month?
Wow.
You know, from clients falling into what most people know as the donut hole, or the gap, Medicare prescription drug gap. It's disheartening to see people have to make those decisions. But I also want to encourage the General Assembly to let's get back on track. Was it perfect? No, the health care plan wasn't perfect, but it worked.
The thing that's interesting for me, why couldn't it be fixed? Why does it have to be scrapped? It's almost like, you start a business. Some policies work, some don't.
Right.
You change the ones that don't to ones that do.
Yes.
But do you scrap all the policies?
No, you don't, but you do when you have an agenda to dismantle the previous administration's legacy.
So it's personal.
Yes, it was personal.
Wow. Wow. And I guess that is the sad part that I'm finding. We're missing again. It's people for people. People send people to the different government positions to represent people.
Yes.
And my microphone just dropped. So when we don't represent those people or forget who sent us there, it's a disadvantage for the position. So anyway, on May the 8th,
Yes.
you're running for, and let's let everybody know.
Yes, my name is Kathy Goodwin-Williams. I am running for state representative of the Fighting 33rd District of Ohio. I would like for everyone to go to my website. That is voteforkathy.com. It's Kathy with a K.
Okay.
And there you can see my platform and all of the things that I've done and what makes me qualified and ready to hit the ground running in this role.
Wow. So will you come back after you're elected?
Oh, I don't plan to leave Lincoln Heights.
No, I mean, will you come back to...
Oh, yes. Yes, I thought you meant like, am I going leaving this area? No, I want the village to be able to say that their state representative lives.
Talk about the things that mean so much to you.